Hi there, students. I'm XS. That's little x, little s, which stands for extra sweet, because that's what I am. Last week, we were looking at the ga Hitsuyou pattern as a way to say something is required. But one of the things that I taught you is that there's a limitation with this construction in that it's really looking for a noun in this pattern. It really wants noun ga Hitsuyou. And so using this directly with verbs can be just a little bit tricky. Well, for this week, what we're going to be doing is we'll learn the nakereba naranai construction. And this construction is one that can attach directly to verbs. So here's nakereba naranai. Does that feel a little bit like a tongue twister? Nakereba naranai. Nakereba naranai. It's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? Nakereba naranai is an entire unit that altogether should be translated as something like have to do, must do, should do, no choice but to. Japanese has several very similar constructions that result in a similar should do, must do type idea. You can see here there are sort of four really similar grammar points, and they are nakereba naranai, nakereba ikenai, nakute wa naranai, nakute wa ikenai. All four of these constructions really mean something like, if I don't do verb, then that won't do. If I do not do this verb, that's going to be bad, right? So, what you can see here is that we're sort of creating a bit of a double negative pattern. I can't not do something, right? If I don't do that thing, then it will be bad. I cannot not do that thing. And obviously what that means is I must do that thing. The nice thing is that all four of these similar constructions are going to be used within your sentence in the exact same way. In order to use any of these grammar patterns, we're first going to need to create the negative plain form of the verb that we must do. Let's start with a suru verb. We'll use riraksu suru, which means to relax. For a suru verb, in order to form the negative, we want to convert suru to shinai. That's going to be the plain negative form of the suru verb. It's basically the stem, shi, plus nai. That gives us shinai. And so together with our example verb, we would have this negative, riraksu shinai. The next step to using this grammar pattern is to link our negative verb to the rest of our must-do construction, that nakereba naranai, right? Remember, the meaning of the construction nakereba naranai is really cannot not do, right? And so we're going to want to negate something. And the something that we're negating is our verb. That means that the first na in nakereba is actually the same na from nai in riraksu shinai. So we need to drop the e at the end of riraksu shinai. There we go. Well, we're ready now to make a double negative sentence. We want to say, I cannot not relax. Remember, this na here is the na from nakereba naranai. So all we need to do is we're going to add kereba naranai, right? And so all together we get riraksu shinakereba naranai. And that means I can't not relax, or I absolutely must relax. The basic framework of this construction is basically verb in the nai form minus e plus kereba naranai. We're basically creating the negative form of the verb and then dropping the e in the nai, and then we're adding kereba naranai. Why are we dropping the e in the nai? Well, it's complicated, but basically the entire construction here is nakereba naranai. It's all one thing, right? So we need to have nakereba naranai, but that na is actually a negative. We could even write that in kanji if we wanted to, because that really is the na in nai. But it's not exactly the case that you're forming the stem form of the verb and then adding nakereba naranai, because nakereba is negating the verb. And nakereba also has the conditional ba, right? And so it's really saying, if we get down to the kind of the core of this, it really is saying, if it's not this verb, right? That's where the ba is coming in. The ba is saying if. If it is not this verb, nararai, that won't do, right? It sounds more complicated than it actually is, but let's take a look at another example verb, and maybe that'll help us understand it better, okay? How about we'll take the verb sleep. Sleep is neru. Sleep is neru. Hello? Ah, there. Okay. All right. So we have neru, and we first need to make the negative, right? So we need to make the nai form of neru. And for neru, the nai form is nenai. We have nenai, meaning to not sleep, right? Great. Okay. Now, if we want to use our nakereba naranai form, we need to drop the e in nenai, and we get nenakereba naranai. Ne? Okay. And we can create a situation here that feels like, if I don't sleep, it's not going to be good. Or, in other words, I must sleep. Now, of course, it's also possible to use this same construction in the polite form. What we've been looking at so far is the plain form of nakereba naranai. It's ending in nai, and the implication of that is that you're using this phrase with friends or with people that you're very close with. But what if you wanted to use this same construction in cases where you want to say you must do something, but it's more of a formal situation? Let's totally arbitrarily pick a different verb, and I'll show you the polite form of this same construction. We'll take the verb yasumu. Yasumu means to have a vacation or to take some time off. So here's yasumu. Now this is a godan verb, so in order to form the negative of this verb, we're going to have to change that u vowel in mu to an ah vowel sound, and then we'll add nai. So that's going to give us yasumanai. So that's great. We're now wanting to form the must do construction, and we'll do that in the same way that we did above. First, we want to drop the e. There it goes. And then we're going to add kereba naranai. So that gives us yasuma na kereba naranai. But we've said that we've been wanting to turn this into the polite form, right? And that's because maybe we want to tell somebody in a position of authority in our life, like, I don't know, maybe we're trying to tell our manager that we need a vacation. So, and we want to do that really respectfully, right? In this case, all we need to do is change that final nai in nakereba naranai to narimasen. So the polite form of this verb is going to become yasuma nakereba narimasen. So long as we know how to make the nai form of any verb, we can use this nakereba naranai construction in any number of different sentences. And it's always just going to mean must do this verb. Whatever verb comes before that you've negated with nai, the nakereba naranai bit is going to say you must do that verb. Or in other words, it's no good if you don't do that verb. When we don't have a subject for the sentence, as in most of the little examples that I've given here, then the presumed subject is always I, me, as in I'm the one who must sleep. I'm the one who must rest. I'm the one who must take a vacation. But it doesn't have to be the case that I am the subject of nakereba naranai. Ne? So let's take a look at this sentence. Kodomo wa hayaku nenakereba naranai. Ne? The children must go to bed early. Or in other words, if the children don't go to bed early, then they'll be hell to pay. Right? Okay, This same construction can also be used to form commands, like Kimi wa mo nenakereba naranai. You must go to sleep now. Or you could even use it with the polite form, Kimi wa mo nenakereba narimasen. Little caveat here, though. Remember that addressing someone with the second person pronoun in Japanese can actually come across as pretty abrasive and a little bit rude and maybe even a little bit presumptive. So it is a little bit weird to say, Kimi wa mo nenakereba narimasen, because you're being polite, but you're also very much not being polite. So I guess maybe it's like behaving as if you were somebody from the South who's like pretending to be polite, but you're really not. Anyway, the metaphor got lost at some point. What I'm trying to say is, if you're going to use a sentence with nakereba naranai to tell somebody that they must do something, you should probably reserve those kinds of sentences for cases where you actually have the authority to send somebody to bed. Speaking of having the authority to order someone to go to bed, I guess we're through here. Anyway, I'll see you next week. Mata laishu!